everyone, and welcome to the TDWI webinar program. I'm Andrew Miller, and I'll be your moderator. For today's program, we're going to talk about transforming BFSI with AI and ML. Our sponsor today is Impetus. And for our presentations today, we'll hear from David Stoddard with TDWI. And after Dave speaks, we'll be joined by Ravi Shankar Rao Vahabjosila with Impetus and Yi Wang with AWS for a panel discussion. Before I turn over the time to our speakers, I'd like to go over a few basics with everybody. Today's webinar will be about an hour long, and at the end of their presentations, our speakers will host a question and answer period. If at any time during these questions you'd like to submit a question, just use the Ask a Question area on your screen to type in your question. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, click on the Help area located below the slide window, and you'll receive technical assistance. And if you'd like to discuss this webinar on Twitter with fellow attendees, just include the hashtag TDWI in your tweets. And if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please locate the resource window on the bottom right of your console to download the PDF. Lastly, we are recording today's event and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version so you can view the presentation again later if you choose, or if you'd like to share it with a colleague. Again, today we're going to be discussing transforming BFSI with AI and ML. And our first speaker today is David Stoddard. He is the Senior Director of Research for Business Intelligence at TDWI. And as an analyst, writer, and researcher, Dave has provided thought leadership on key topics in BI, analytics, IT, and information management for over 2 decades. Previously, he headed up his own independent firm and served as Vice President and Research Director with Ventana Research. He was the founding Chief Editor of Intelligent Enterprise and served as Editorial Director there for 9 years. With TDWI Research, Dave focuses on providing research-based insight and best practices for organizations implementing BI, analytics, performance management, and related technologies and methods. Please welcome Dave, and I will hand it over to you now.
Andrew, thank you very much, and welcome to everyone who's here today. I think we got a great webinar that will talk about AI and machine learning in the context of banking, financial services, and insurance, so BFSI industries. And so couldn't be more timely, I think, today, of course, picking up the newspapers or reading online, I guess you could say, which is what most people do these days. So I'm going to provide some research perspectives about AI and machine learning and how it applies to these industries. So just to start, BFSI certainly is a time of challenges and opportunities. Banking, of course, is changing almost by the day with the economic changes, the uncertain economy. Banking is certainly kind of under pressure these days, at least some banks. And so we're seeing a lot of restructuring and moving around of accounts and new customers, customers moving from one bank to another. And so this certainly introduces a lot of new risk for banks, potential for fraud as they do customer onboarding, and then try to look at accounts and understand what they have. And then certainly in insurance industries, it's also the kind of ongoing issues of, again, trying to make claims processes more efficient, try to find new customers, again, to understand the risks of the new customers and detect and combat fraud. And their predictive insights are critical. So insurance firms have really invested heavily in really all along and throughout certainly our time, we see at TDWI in reducing delays, closing in on real time for processing claims processes. All these industries are heavily regulated, so they have a lot of regulatory requirements around the data and security. So these need to be tracked and understand what new security threats there could be and what they need to do to adjust their processes and the kind of data they collect in order to comply and to be able to continue to pursue, obviously, the more positive business objectives. Customer behavior is changing. Customers are moving from one channel to another, having multi-channel interactions with organizations. Expectations are shifting. They expect personalization. And then, so for all these, really, speed to data insights is critical. For AI and machine learning, big data, is kind of half of the revolution there. And so volume, speed, variety of the data presents lots of different data management challenges to make sure that the data is appropriate for the use cases for AI and machine learning. The opportunities, of course, are many. making AI and machine learning the brains of digital transformation. A lot of organizations trying to digitally transform older processes that may have been more paper-based or offline to digital processes that are where software is at the center, and also an opportunity to make analytics and make them more data-driven. Use of AI to scale and increase the real-time effectiveness of all of these: risk analytics, fraud detection, security, to take the lead in industries and customer experiences, to provide smarter personalization, enhance the personalization, understand better what really attracts and retains customers. And then finally, hitting the point about the data, to use cloud platforms effectively to control costs, to sort of bend the curve of cost down as you have more data volume, more kinds of workloads, more complex workloads, and have greater flexibility, and be able to align the data management with business. This is something organizations have, of course, wanted to do for a long time, but really because of the fixed nature of off or on-premises systems have been difficult to do that. But with the cloud and cloud elasticity and the scalability, it's much more possible to align it with what the business needs and to be able to respond as business changes. So I'd like to do a poll question at this point, just asking, what is currently your organization's most important focus for developing and deploying AI and machine learning? Is it personalizing customer experiences, increasing loyalty and reducing churn? Is it addressing fraud, data breaches, security, and regulatory issues? Streamlining and automating business processes? The fourth choice would be improving business forecasting and discovering revenue opportunities. Fifth, using AI and machine learning to drive innovation in new products and services. And then finally, we have one where you can check other and provide something that we'll look at as we get to the audience Q&A. So it'll go into our ask a question box. Okay, so let's give it another second here and take a look what the answers are. And I also wanted to jot down these answers so we can refer to them later. So we have 25%. You know what I'm going to do is refresh it one more time, because often we make sure we get everybody. Okay, good. So 25% saying personalization is the issue, and the same percentage also saying improving business forecasting and discovering new revenue opportunities. So really, those are interesting. So it's really about business growth, improving customer experiences, personalization. But we do have actually 25% down here using AI and machine learning to drive new products and services. Yep, again, on the idea really of business growth and improving position in market. And then, but we do have 12.5% looking at addressing fraud. And we didn't get any takers for streamlining, automating business processes. Maybe that's sort of part and parcel to the others. And looks like we do have some answers that we'll get a chance to look at in the audience Q&A portion. So cloud migration and cloud platforms, and then migrating to the cloud for data modernization is a key trend at TDWI, and something that's so important for supporting AI and machine learning. So I wanted to show some research slides here about this. And so what we can see, there's a lot to look at on this chart, but cloud migration, it addresses the needs for supporting democratized analytics. So you have more types of users in your organization wanting to do predictive analytics and launch AI and machine learning algorithms potentially, but just using it more in their processes. And so that plus, as I mentioned, the amount of data that AI and machine learning really require, we can see here, migration itself is number one. Number two, increased flexibility and speed in setting up data platforms and integration. Number three, higher volume and variety, scalable storage and processing as really key issues that organizations want to do as they modernize their data integration, their platforms, and management. Cloud adoption is often, as I mentioned, business-driven, or it needs to be business-driven, again, to be aligned with the business and flexible with the business. So the trend towards serverless, pay-as-you-go kind of computing models that are dominating in cloud computing is really an important trend and a valuable trend for AI and machine learning using predictive analytics. So now I'm going to go through just some charts we have of our research that we concluded at the end of 2022, our data and analytics survey. I thought some interesting points to look at as we discuss these topics. Again, first of all, demand continues to increase. So these results are across industries, but in TWI banking and financial services and insurance are well represented. We have a lot of organizations in those industries in TDWI. So how has demand for analytics and machine learning and text analytics changed? Well, it's decidedly increasing. So 19% say it's increasing significantly, 46% increasing slightly, and 23% staying the same. So very small percentage, of course, declining. Data infrastructure challenges. So what have been your biggest challenges with the analytics strategy? Well, 32% saying implementing the right data infrastructure to support analytics. As I mentioned, the migration to the cloud is an answer many organizations are pursuing to have that right data infrastructure. But of course, that's part of it. And so we're beginning to work with the cloud platform providers to make sure you have it the appropriate setup for it. 27% say finding analytics talent. We do see this as, of course, a big issue and one of the drivers behind the idea of democratization, using auto ML tools, automation as much as possible to try to expand the base of people who can do analytics, advanced analytics and machine learning. Operationalizing the analytics, so actually going through, making them effective, putting them in production. That's often a stumbling block just to get to that point. So 25% saying that, obtaining buy-in about the same percentage, and then integrating the data for analytics. So these are interesting to look at. And then we can see here on the other side, data science and democratization, kind of illustrating that point. 33% say data scientists only build predictive analytics, but 50% are saying that data scientists and business analysts are doing so. So there's a democratization trend going on as well. 74%, however, are struggling to mature with analytics. We just asked broadly, are you comfortable with where your direction is and that you're maturing properly? So it's a struggle. And so I think we'll be discussing issues today, how to improve, accelerate maturity, make sure that you avoid pitfalls and address all the issues that could be coming up. Some of the top 5 priorities for analytics response could still look for us. This obviously doesn't add up to 100. But 48% upskilling. So we saw before that finding skilled people is a challenge. Well, here, number 1, the priority is upskilling business analysts to perform more advanced analytics. So again, driving that kind of what can be done to expand. Obviously, expert data scientists will always be important as organizations, but being able to allow others to do these more advanced analytics. 43% self-service analytics. 40% building data literacy in the organization. So I'll talk about that more in a moment, but that's important to the culture of the organization. And then, of course, utilizing machine learning, automation, and augmented tools. Top organizational strategies for success, 56% saying understand the business objectives before starting. So again, I get that business alignment in place, not only just with the platform, but obviously the analytics. And I think we do see that too is often not having enough clarity about what the purpose is of the project, the analytics project, which of course can change over time, so it needs to be flexible. 48% make sure IT and business work together. So again, kind of on that. 46% gaining executive buy-in is a strategy for success. And again, all this all sort of goes together with making sure you're properly aligned with the business and in step with as business requirements change, which of course is happening in the BFSI industries. 33% have ML Ops teams that they put in production. So ML Ops is a good framework for scaling, for excellence and accuracy, and also improving collaboration between different team members and stakeholders, including on the business side. 57% are using ML Ops tools now. 17% are only showing satisfaction. So that's that maturity curve, is to be able to use ML Ops effectively, feel like you've set out all of the processes that are involved in ML Ops and being satisfied with them. 50% are using auto ML model building tools. So that's, again, part of that process of allowing other types of users in the organization to work with them, and then linking that up with a framework such as ML Ops. But 23% say they are working well. So again, a lot of room for improvement there in using auto ML tools. So I mentioned and just in closing in my presentation, the value of culture and data literacy. an analytics culture is important. So it's often, easy to sort of concentrate on the tooling, the platforms, the data, but you need to also be building out the culture in the organization to make data-driven insights valued, that make it an organizational priority. Of course, this really has to come from the executive leadership down, and make the organization and ensure that it's open to challenging assumptions with analytics, as lots of different types of users, including data scientists, come up with new insights based on the data, maybe unexpected or unanticipated insights about patterns or trends. The organization needs to be open to those kinds of challenging of long-held assumptions. 38% say a better analytics culture would make their analytics more successful. 34% say better analytics leadership is important. And we saw before 27% clearer focus on change management. What's going to change if we've now seen these insights? We need to change processes. So change management is very important. And then 25% better training in data literacy. Literacy being training and mentorship to increase understanding of analytics, data representations, and also accountability for the conclusions for the data that's being used. 43% say they have no company-wide data literacy plan, and 38% say the organization, only 38% say the organization is data literate. Of course, 25% say they're not sure, and I think that's often the case. Not sure. Some are more than others, obviously. So these are areas that are very helpful for building the culture that can support AI and machine learning. So let's have one last poll. What is your organization's biggest challenge in achieving AI and machine learning objectives? Is it determining the most important issues to solve and focusing our resources, hiring skilled personnel or training current employees, optimizing and scaling AI and machine learning processes, including development, training, testing, and operationalization, having robust data management to support AI and machine learning processes and workloads, so having the data management infrastructure there. E is achieving trusted and actionable results with auto ML tools, which we saw, so looking for some satisfaction there. And then finally, other, which is, again, type something in and we can look at it during the audience Q&A. Okay, let's take a look at our results. And looks like the highest percentage, both a third each, are hiring skilled workers. Yeah, not surprising there, as we do see that is often the biggest issue. So around a 33.3, and then also having robust data management. So data management, some critical issues there. So 16.47% saying improve issues to solving, what are the important, determining the most important issues. And I said before, often the focus of what it is, which can change, is difficult. And then finally, achieving trusted and actual results with auto ML tools. So also, again, the 16.7%. Okay, great. Interesting results there. Andrew, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dave. That was a great presentation. I'm going to introduce our next speaker here. But before I do that, just a quick reminder to our audience, if you have a question, you can enter it at any time in the Ask a Question window. We will be answering audience questions in the final portion of our program. This does bring me to our next speaker, who is Ravi Shankar Rao Vahabjosla with Impetus. Ravi leads the data science practice at Impetus and has contributed extensively to various AI and ML initiatives. He has been involved in delivering successful data science engagements for several customers. And Ravi has over 2 decades of experience working with data modeling and simulation and machine learning in engineering design, manufacturing, energy, aerospace, life sciences, healthcare, and other areas. Please welcome Ravi, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Andrew, I hope you can all see me. And thank you also for the great presentation, David. I think it was very powerful and brought out many facts that we are seeing. And especially for banking and financial services organizations, a lot of benefits that AML is providing today and will continue to do so as we move forward. Where we stand today, there are many opportunities for meeting various organizational goals, and towards that end, our experience working with many customers has been along the lines of what was covered in the previous presentation. So I'll kind of talk about the various aspects that we are seeing. And for some reason, Andrew, my screen is just refreshing. I don't know why. I need to forward, I think. Okay, so what I want to talk about is being able to kind of build a AMLs, solutions capabilities for cloud first enterprises, and these are enterprises that are taking up cloud journey to the cloud. And we, for example, work very closely with AWS as a global partner. We do a lot of things in this space, and my team kind of is focused specifically on building AML solutions and enabling our customers to derive value from the large data stores. As a part of the overall impetus organization, we also work with many other groups in the company. For example, the data engineering teams and the platform and other the cloud teams. So I'll talk a bit about the work we do, and also kind of walk you through the impact we kind of have on the customers we're working with. So broadly, there is a move towards cloud, as you're aware of, and AWS is front and center in all of these initiatives. And we have worked with a number of customers, and here are just a few examples of the work that we have done for some of those customers. I will talk about the customer impact primarily from the point of view of the business outcomes that we were able to bring to the table, enabling them to be more successful in what they were doing. One example is Marsh, which is a major insurance organization, and they have a lot of different kind of models around property insurance, for example, where they have to kind of ensure that these models that they have are able to serve a number of customers. So we work not just with the data science team there, but also kind of building out these models on SageMaker and kind of creating the capability to productionize them. So serving those ML models for customers across different areas is a key outcome that they were able to kind of onboard more than 500 new customers with these capabilities that we added, and into all their AI based products. And what we're doing is kind of enabling them to be more scalable and more available and things of that nature by bringing in a lot of parallel computing capabilities, because the models were kind of built kind of on-prem and looked at data in a restricted way, but now on the cloud they can access more data sources and be able to kind of provide more API requests and so forth. So the models that we kind of created for them, we walked them through the entire MLOps process and built out the framework for enabling them to take these models from the training pipelines to the production deployment framework. So that's something we've been very successful in doing for Marsh, and also kind of built out the overall enterprise-wide AI platform. This is ongoing today as well. So this whole platform is going to support their AI initiatives, and there's a move towards kind of building more of these functionalities on this AI platform, which will be based on AWS, right? So and these models are also getting deployed. So I can give you some examples of looking at buildings and kind of deriving their height from just images, like let's say Google images. So you can actually kind of figure out the value of those kind of models, because that helps them determine the insurance premiums and so forth, and also the risk based on the construction model, type of materials, and all that information we can extract from that using various things like image analytics and also other kind of approaches. Now, there's also work we've done with JP Morgan Chase in, for example, kind of looking at compliance violations and how different kind of fraud categories can be detected with machine learning. For example, you can have one way of detecting is Dodd-Frank violations or many other types of violations. So these are security issues. So you can actually kind of figure out that there may be a money laundering situation kind of going on. If you detect it early enough and it doesn't become a serious problem for the bank, and also it doesn't get them into various regulatory aspects. So the whole thing was to be able to kind of be able to predict things before they happen. So that is where you're applying machine learning to detect intent. All right. So the intent to for fraud to occur. So the way we do that is kind of look at various communications and kind of figure out and score them for potential for various fraud categories. And Of course, this is a this is not a very supervised learning problem. That's that there's not a lot of fraud, proven fraud, but there is some cases that you can actually use to build so semi-supervised learning algorithms and rank various kind of for categories. So this is something they were able to take to their Investors Day event and also spun it out as a contract intelligence platform, because the whole thing was based on using natural language processing to mine different kind of data sources and from that detect the intent to fraud. So this is something we had worked with this large bank. American Express is again a large strategic partner for us. We work with them on many use cases, and some examples here are kind of working with them to kind of detect out of pattern transactions, because as opposed to traditional fraud, these are transactions that might not be the normal kind of pattern. Essentially, think of maybe a corporate card member as opposed to a personal credit card member. So the corporate card member taking someone out for lunch and then ordering wine. So while it may not be a specific fraud category, and it may be in violence of some regulations. So these have to be detected early on, and they have some processes in place. So we applied machine learning and especially unsupervised learning to kind of detect these kind of categories, and also looked at the entire card member space to kind of see how we can scale this model. So we were able to kind of get up to 50x speed up over what they had. And broadly, it was really powerful in enabling them to compare the performance of the algorithms against the baselines that they had. So another area that we are really proud to be able to partner with American Express is an entire sales digitalization process, where they had salespeople kind of reaching out to their prospects and kind of getting them to enroll for various kind of products they might be interested in. So the challenge there was, this is primarily driven by gut, right? So salespeople will be able to close the opportunity if they feel that it's a potentially a good way of closing the sale. However, machine learning plays a part here by kind of enabling metrics to be extracted from that interaction between the salespeople and the prospects, both on the sales personnel side as well as the way the prospects are gauging the interaction. So we can extract metrics from the whole process and kind of use that to drive the machine learning algorithm. So we built out a whole framework of use cases, 50 plus across many areas. This is across many US, Canada, Australia, and others. So kind of looked at how to convert the existing sales leads to kind of closed opportunities, closed deals. So under the hood was, of course, machine learning and natural language processing and many other areas to kind of increase the sales effectiveness, and then also next best action, lead conversion, and so on and so forth. So all these things are just examples of the work we do with customers, and in the banking financial space, there's a lot more to talk about, but just wanted to give you a glimpse of that. But broadly, there are a lot of other customers also, not just in banking finance, but also many others that we've worked with. I can talk more about this when I have an opportunity, but I just wanted to give you the glimpse of the work that we do. And here are some examples of many customers that, especially in banking finance, we worked also with Bank of America and Dun & Bradstreet, Citibank, and so forth. So what does Impetus provide in terms of advantage? So what we kind of bring to the table is not just like, okay, we have a problem and we'll build a model, but also look at the holistic platform-centric approach, where we can actually look at not just the model or just the data set in question, but also take a holistic view where we can start looking at the whole end-to-end pipeline of enabling conversion from the overall data sources that are ingesting. So this could be like hundreds or thousands of data sources that get ingested. But now once you have a platform kind of approach, you can essentially bring all this data to the platform, because earlier these kind of data sources were sitting in silos, and it becomes difficult to kind of cross correlate and build powerful use cases. So now with the platform approach, which is enabled by our platform team, we can actually start looking at various kind of workloads that can exist on this platform and at scale. That's a powerful piece. And this enables various use cases that we can bring to the table. Could be like, conversational AI, or could be, sales, or various other things. So what we kind of look at is connecting all these data and use cases and enabling them through AI/ML. Often what we also find is that many of these use cases are either rule based, or just based on a local data set that just that LOB might have access to. So the data platform approach enables us to kind of take all of this and look at the enterprise-wide application of those use cases. So this enables us to kind of provide data as a service, one, two, analytics as a service, then ML as a service, and also AI as a service. So these all enable us to kind of operationalize these use cases and at scale for our customers. And that's where they derive maximum advantage, and enabling this whole process from end to end is something that we do with all of our customers. So the way we go about it is kind of building out this starting point as a assessing the AML platform approach, and then looking at the data pipelining, data gathering, and data science enablers that we bring to the table, and also looking at all the aspects that we can bring to the table. For example, the talent that we have, and also that team that can work with other customers in kind of providing value to our business outcomes, and taking a longer term view of the customers. So just in time, the time check, yeah, I think I need to kind of little speed up a little bit. I'll just take a few more minutes just to cover about the overall approach that we have in terms of the BFSI space. Primarily looking at analytics strategy that we provide to our customers, and building out AML solutions on the route, for example, use cases on AWS. Also kind of working with the customers to discover those use cases. There's a big area, and also enabling data exploration, and also the ML ops and AI ops pieces of it. We work also a lot with our customers in bringing their legacy data and logic to maybe SaaS or even other things like R, for example, into modern data platforms such as Spark or Python. So all of this to enable various algorithms that we can use to kind of mine and extract insights from these data sets. So for example, this could be based on text mining NLP, or machine learning, deep learning, and this enables various kind of use cases. For example, could be customer 360, or given that the data could be a lot of unstructured data, we can apply even image and video analytics or voice analytics. So there are many things such as graph-based data science and advanced analytics and reinforcement learning, and various other things to enable all of the whole process for building out models and providing data analytics the service and so forth. At the last piece I want to talk about here is enabling things for a lot of customers in many verticals. Today we're talking on BFSI, but also we do things for customers in many other use cases, verticals as well. So I think one additional thing I also want to talk about is our edge in terms of providing the AML solutions for our customers. And there are some examples that I had given, and I'll be talking more about that also. We also work with our customers to provide the right services and at the right time and cost, because this is the most important part, because something that's valuable is the accurate model, but at the same time, even something of higher value is something that's needed at the right time. So to enable this, we work with the customers to take, like I mentioned, some of the legacy code to modern platforms, because they have existing code that works very well. But the problem with this kind of legacy systems is they don't scale well. So that's what modern platforms enable us to do. So we have tools and capabilities to kind of help with that whole process. We have expertise in end-to-end model development lifecycle, for example, ML ops and ML platforms. And just to add one last point about partnering with AWS across the globe. So we're doing this at a really large scale, enabling our customers to realize the power and promise of AML. And AWS SageMaker is a key area that we are building a lot of things for customers, and enabling them to kind of derive value from their data sets, and not just the SageMaker, but also other AI services in AWS, and or could be custom models as well. So that I think was my last slide. So I'll just maybe hand it back over to Andrew. Thank you once again for your time, and sorry if I just went over by a little bit.
No worries, Ravi. Thank you for that great presentation. We'll move into the panel discussion, so please allow me to introduce our last panelist. His name is Yi Wang, and he's with AWS. Yi is an AI ML specialist for financial services at AWS. He focuses on helping financial institutions build cloud-based AI ML applications and platforms to solve business problems. In his previous role, he helped quantitative researchers and data scientists build financial and AI ML models used at leading global banks, asset management firms, and insurance companies. He has a bachelor's degree in computer engineering from the University of Toronto, and a master's degree in computer science from the University of Southern California. Welcome, Yi, and I'll ask that both Dave and Ravi rejoin us so that we can begin the panel discussion.
Thank you, Andrew, and welcome, Yi. Yi, thank you for joining us. I know it was in the last moment, so appreciate your being here. And so I think I might ask you the first question. What do you see as the top priority AI and machine learning priorities and challenges for BFSI companies today? I know Ravi sketched out some in his presentation, but what are you seeing from AWS perspective?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I like the poll that you actually put out earlier at the presentation. I mean, a lot of things that we have seen in the industry from the AWS perspective are actually quite aligned with the polling responses that we received earlier. So definitely, I think I'll start with the number one, which is the shortage of skilled AI ML workers, data scientists, ML engineers. I mean, every company, every bank, insurance company, I mean, they're seeing definitely a very hard time to hire qualified data scientists, especially the data scientists with the business acumen to understand the actual business side of the problem they're trying to solve. Another thing is the data. Still, I mean, in large financial institutions or even like the medium size, the data are quite siloed, and we know that data are also very sensitive. So we want to make sure that the data is made available to the right people for model development or for production. So there's definitely a data, how to manage that data, how to build a layer on top of your analytics platform so that data can be managed accordingly. Another thing is that there has been a lot of pressure to push out new products and services with a reduced time to market because a lot of customers are expecting more capabilities. So I think those are the kind of three pretty big challenges for a lot of financial institutions. But the last thing that I want to actually mention is actually another thing that even mature financial institutions are having trouble or still trying to figure out how to manage that, which is model risk, AI risk. So how can we make sure that the models are producing the kind of results that we need in a compliant manner? So especially with the advent of generative AI. So how to manage that model risk, how to manage so that we can minimize the reputation risk. So that is an area that still needs a lot of work.
Yeah, certainly. I think that is a very timely point. I think your last one is, well, why don't we bring Dr. Ravi in about maturity of firms, and we kind of talk about these things together, the challenges organizations are facing and how mature the firms are and how they can move to higher maturity. Ravi, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I think that's a very good point. As you know, there's a lot of adoption of AML in many sectors, and banking is also in that process. But I think it's lagging it just a bit, partly because of the number one, the talent issue, and adoption is also dependent on the fact that a lot of the systems that banks use are based on legacy, code and logic, and modernizing that is a major challenge. So there's always challenge from the more cloud ready or the fintechs and so forth. So that is an aspect that would require some thought. And for example, the core idea is also to kind of extract intelligence from the data sets that especially banking and financial services firms have. There's a lot of data in this space. However, because of the way the data changes over time, especially from year to year, they capturing the right kind of insights from these with models. These models should be updated frequently, and the whole process of being able to bring ML ops practices, best practices, where I think really banking and financial services firms can really get value out of AML. So integrating all of this end to end, and not just building just a model because it's something that's just derives value for one's LOB, but for the entire organization as a whole. That's value. I think that's where I think banking BFSI firms can really benefit from.
You had raised the point of generative AI and in the model risk there. Do you see that also as something that organizations are looking at carefully? And what are some of the positives and potential negatives of that, do you think?
Definitely. No, generative AI is going to play a big part in a lot of things as we are seeing today. Of course, the challenges are with the kind of data. So there are compliance regulations that will become also relevant. And one area also we are hearing from a lot of our customers is how do we kind of ensure that the model risk is important. And I am still kind of trying to understand how to kind of where does generative AI come into the picture in terms of being able to kind of connect the dots. So a lot of things around services that these kind of tools can provide will simplify the whole process pipeline and also enable more productivity. That's one place where generative AI could potentially play a key role. But at the same time, in fact, today I can ask a question, I can get even a small code that I can build out a quick model. So it reduces the time to develop. But now, how much of that can plug into the existing frameworks is another question to answer. And maybe the frameworks also need modernization to support those kind of approaches.
Yi, are you also seeing that, or do you have some other thoughts there?
Yeah, it's that's something that I think that a lot of people are still kind of exploring, especially on the generative AI side. But on the traditional kind of model risk aspect, even for financial modeling like credit scoring, or maybe for fraud detection and also other models, the model risk is definitely something that it requires a lot of top-down kind of buy-in, so that it can set up the right guardrail to make sure that the model risks are managed correctly.
Yeah. Well, the next question is around cost control. It's a key issue for really all firms, but certainly BFSI as well. It's a challenge, particularly as organizations are trying to democratize data science. We did see in our research some of the issues around democratizing, and that it is important for organizations. But it could increase costs as they try to scale up AI and machine learning. What are some cost management best practices that you see working in organizations and what you might recommend?
In terms of cost optimization, I think that's the key theme for 2023 under the current macro economic conditions. So definitely, I mean, there are things that financial institutions can do to help optimize costs. A few things I want to talk about. I think number one is try to use managed services as much as possible, so that it can leave the kind of the nitty-gritty details of heavy lifting to the service providers, and in that way you can free your data scientists and even ML engineers to do something more value-adding instead of just worrying about standing up servers or whatnot. And then those managed services can range from simple kind of data science platform services to all the way to APIs that could provide you with additional capabilities, like even like call center intelligence analysis, or text or intelligent document processing related applications. So definitely leverage managed services as much as possible. And another thing is that we have found a lot of actually data scientists, they're spending a lot of time looking for data, cleaning up data. So, I mean, it's not surprising for them to spend 80%, 60%, depending on which organization you are in, just trying to figure out what data to use. So that is definitely an area that you can save a lot of cost, because data scientists, first, as I mentioned before, hard to find and also expensive to have. So making sure that we leverage their time as much as possible so they can working on the real data science problem. That's super important for cost optimization. So for that regard, building a unified data science platform so that data are managed from different multiple sources. For example, you may have data coming from database, from streaming data, from other data providers, and then you can actually how to stream them, and then making sure that those data are available to them in a unified fashion, and so that all the data scientists and ML engineers would be able to collaborate on a unified platform. And I think that's also very important, so that they won't waste their time looking for the resources they need. On a more tactical level, when the data scientists are iterating over through their process, trying to figure out the right models, maybe start small from like smaller subset of data, or using a smaller model to test it out, so you don't have to waste a lot of time paying for a lot of, for example, GPU access, especially nowadays if you're dealing with a lot of large language models. Another thing is that actually also related to that is try to leverage pre-trained model as much as possible. I mean, there are so many models available nowadays. For example, on Hugging Face, you can find so many different models for doing so different kind of works. And then you can actually take those models and fine tune those models with your data, and then to find the right model for your business problem. And AWS actually has just announced the expanded partnership with Hugging Face to make it easier for you to import those models into, for example, Amazon SageMaker. So those are things that you can definitely leverage to help you to manage cost.
Yeah, those are all good points. And hitting some things that we see in our research at TWI as cost drivers. And also just the amount of time organizations are spending on data that they'd probably prefer to be spending on analytics and the AI and machine learning itself. Well, Ravi, what are some of the benefits that you see of a cloud platform for driving AI ML use cases? I know a lot of organizations are trying to move away from their kind of legacy systems and definitely looking at the cloud to drive these.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So essentially, there is a lot of move towards the cloud, but now the challenge is to kind of do this as a framework that enables the not just a technical debt issue, but also being able to be future ready. So what can you do is kind of be able to kind of ingest multiple data sources, and also kind of build out a single source of truth, because you're able to extract and correlate across all these data sets on the go on the platform. So that kind of platform can enable you to do all these things, for example, on AWS. And we're doing this for some customers of ours. And this helps them kind of discover new things that they may not know about the data, or find new relations among use cases that are built for one line of business, but could be utilized for other lines of business as well. So broadly speaking, it's a new way of thinking. I would say the platform approach kind of enables you to do a lot more things as a business, as opposed to just as an enterprise, as opposed to a business within that enterprise competing against others. So that kind of helps you be able to be more nimble and be able to kind of compete with the digital natives that you have out there. So that's an area that we are seeing a lot of value in.
Yeah, and I think for all kinds of processes, organization, and also trying to get more towards real time, to analyzing patterns in real time, which is something sometimes is kind of beyond the capabilities of the earlier legacy platforms. Thinking about the data platforms advances and kind of making them more AI enabled themselves, what best practices would you recommend in making the most of the AI enabled data platforms on AWS for financial services and BFSI?
Yeah, For financial services, I mean, industry as a whole, I mean, some of the companies are quite advanced in terms of adopting AI/ML. Others may have just started the journey. And for the more matured ones who have already kind of built an AI empowered platform, what we have heard from our customers are they would try to encourage other line of business users to come to the platform and then actually to start developing newer models and then use that platform as an ecosystem of applications. So I think the best practice is how to bring those line of business people in. And I think it comes down to awareness, and then some of the line of business users, they may already have built their own kind of platform, and then how to encourage them to use the newer platform and then to change that status quo and leverage more capabilities and the scalability of a cloud AI-based platform. I think that's one of the things that more mature companies are doing. For the newer companies who just started on the AI/ML journey, definitely I think the important thing for them to do is to talk to the line of business teams to get a business case that they will be able to work on. For example, if you're trying to work on some of a proof of concept or whatnot, definitely get the line of business teams involved early on, and that will be that will pay off in the long run.
Yeah, it seems like that alignment is really critical to move forward faster.
Yeah, actually, another thing I want to add it in here is that another is the training, which is also quite important. So a lot large organizations, they have spent a lot of resources, money in terms of building that platform. So how to kind of get the most out of the platform, I think the training, certification, that is very helpful. So I actually helped a large organization actually train 200 of their data scientists to get AWS certified. So that is definitely something that that can help the company to get the most out of the platform.
Yeah, that's a big deal. 200. Wow. Yeah. So that gets to our next question, which really is about what are the biggest challenges firms have in order to overcome development, training, testing, operationalizing, and machine learning. We did see that certainly the training issues, 33% said that was one of their biggest challenges. But we also saw a pretty good percentage, 16.7% for the models themselves to be able to develop, train, test, and operationalizing the AI machine learning models themselves and maybe implementing ML ops to do so. Ravi, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is actually a big challenge, BFSI firms and generally other organizations also. We see that primarily once you have the data, I mean, that itself is a huge exercise. But once you have the data, you need to be able to kind of build out the models and iterate and kind of create the whole frameworks. So often the teams are in flux, and that what happens in this process is whatever has been learned has to be relearned, and as people are moving out. So the whole processes need to be standardized, or there's for better collaboration. So some way of kind of for teams to collaborate through using best practices on ML ops and be able to kind of build things incrementally and add value so that at the end of the day, you're able to kind of continuously innovate using whatever has been built and not kind of restart again because that adds to the cost. And once these models, you have enough number of models and you want to take them to the next step, productionizing them is always a challenge, but you need to be able to do that at scale and be able to have the production systems also work in collaboration. So overall, we have tools to kind of enable our customers to help do this at scale, not just at the the operationalization space, but also the entire whole end-to-end flow of this whole system. So what I see also is another challenge is being able to kind of utilize the learning that from these models. So often these models can drift, and you're trying to do something at the other end and retain those models, but sometimes that learning doesn't get back in the system. So there needs to be proper architecture to kind of capture that and be able to redo that in future. So those are various challenges. And additionally, one more thing that enterprises I see is they start out this whole journey and then realize midway that there's no business value in pursuing this model. So often that whole reviewing process, if it's put up front before the modeling exercise starts, because the data scientists like to play with data, but they are not seeing the bigger picture of the business outcomes. So the enterprise, the whole organization as a whole needs to be aligned, and that touched upon the alignment with the business that you in your presentation as well.
Right. Well, I think that those issues in trying to, and also there's a lot of cost in each one of the steps that are not really well coordinated. So this is where MLOps is important. And although we do see in our research that a lot of organizations are still at the early stages of using it, don't feel they're really mature quite yet in using it. And then, of course, one of the issues is really our next question is what it's about. Most enterprises have multiple data sources. They have business logic on legacy systems. So they're trying to figure out how they can modernize it. And so how can AI and machine learning be useful in transition to modern stacks and such as cloud and AWS? And I'll ask both of you that question. Whoever wants to.
Sure, I can take a shot at it briefly. So one challenge, like we talked about, is the legacy system. So what we can help these kind of customers is kind of migrate their data and logic to the cloud. For example, we have a product called Leap Logic, which kind of helps customers take their legacy code and logic and maybe SaaS or other kind of, could be any source, right, to any target. So once we have that, we are able to kind of help them kind of build out various things on top of that system and enable them to kind of build more intelligence and using AML models. So there are various pieces to this, of course, and as somebody from AWS will be able to speak better, maybe he can cover other aspects of this. But from a provider point of view, we see a lot of use cases that customers are struggling with, partly because of the data being all over the place and in legacy systems, and that's where we are able to kind of help them with the tools that we have on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just tying back to what Ravi was saying, I mean, we also have programs to help you to move your on-prem legacy system data analytics over into the cloud, and we have folks dedicated to do that along with Embeddis. And another thing that I want to highlight over here is that, I mean, when you're thinking about moving those legacy system into the cloud, I mean, there are basically, I mean, two ways you can do it. You can do a lift and shift. Basically, you can just replicate whatever you have on-prem in the cloud, and then you try to kind of do a one-to-one mapping in terms of the services, in terms of the data access or whatnot. Or you could also take that opportunity as a way to think how you could optimize your existing process. I mean, there may be some components that are required for an on-prem system architecture, but may not be required in the cloud. So that could be also an opportunity for you to think whether you can actually optimize that process a little bit as well. So either way, I mean, we're here to help you. So if you want to do just a lift and shift, or if you want to do a little bit optimization on top of that, then we can sit down and have a conversation with you.
Great. Well, thank you, Yi, and thank you, Ravi, for your answers to the questions. Andrew, I'm going to hand it back to you for audience Q&A. Make sure we have some time for that.
Yeah, no worries. We're running a little short on time, so I'll try to get one question per each speaker here. Squeeze it in, maybe go a little bit over. So with that, Yi, I'll actually start with you. And perhaps you may have already given this piece of advice, but maybe you can expand. So here's the question for you, Yi. What is the number one piece of advice that you can give to an organization starting out with AI and ML?
There are so many number ones in my head, but I'll start with this one because I've seen a lot of people doing this, and then I think 95. There's some stats saying like 90% or even 95% of AI ML models never made into production. Something that I think Ravi also kind of mentioned is that the alignment between technical data science team and business team there definitely should be some agreement beforehand, before you take on this AI mode journey, to identify a key business project that is large enough, that is that's significant enough to you think at the end first. And then, so basically, if we get this accomplished, would that matter? You have to identify that project and then start working backwards from there, and then to make sure that by the time you get that through the whole process, then you get a buy-in from your business team. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Ravi, I'm going to ask you pretty much the same question, just because I think it might be valuable to have your input on this as well, and then perhaps we'll close it after that.
Certainly. Thanks, Andrew. So I think you covered some very important points. So what I will add is that as different data science groups and data engineers and others are working together, so the one challenge we see often is that enterprises try to hire out data scientists right away, and often they are working on the data, but they kind of get lost because the direction, technical leadership or business leadership has a different vision. So the alignment is important, like you mentioned. But additionally, also, I think being able to kind of document and be able to kind of learn from these aspects, at the same time also plan out the various pieces of this as a not just one single model or one single capability, but think of your journey as an organization, like what you plan to accomplish. Is it how will AML help you boost your revenues or lower your costs? So there are various business questions that can be answered. AML is an enabling tool that can help you kind of reach that. So the more data you can collect around this, you're able to kind of use that for many use cases. There are things we've done with our customers in this space similarly, and we can talk more about that later. But one of the key areas is kind of being able to kind of see a higher level goal for AML as a enabling tool.
Okay, fantastic. I think that will bring us to the end of our time today. We did, of course, allow me to thank our speakers. We did, of course, hear from David Stoddard with TDWI, Ravi Valabjosula with Impetus, and Yi Wang with AWS. I'd also like to thank Impetus for sponsoring today's event. And please remember that we did record today's webinar, and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version of the presentation where you can feel free to share with colleagues. And if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, you can locate the resource window on the bottom right of your console to download the PDF. Finally, you can learn more about this topic and more at TDWI Nashville, which is taking place May 14th through May 19th. And if you haven't been to TDWI conference yet, they aren't like other events. Instead of short surface-level sessions, you can attend full-day and half-day courses with our vetted instructors, where you can ask questions, earn certificates, and CPE credits. We hope to see you there, and you can visit tdwi.org/Nashville to learn more and to view the agenda. Lastly, from all of us here, let me say thank you so much for attending. This does conclude today's event.